This film is inexactly founded on H. G. Wells' The Invisible Man, with Dr. Sebastian Kane, entertainer Kevin Bacon, replacing Dr. Jack Griffin, entertainer Claude Rains, and updates the story to the 20th century. In this variant of Wells' story, the specialist is a splendid, yet somewhat megalomaniacal atomic scholar, and is dealing with an intangibility serum for the US military, as well as a serum that will get the subject once again to perceivability. Sebastian has been endeavoring to consummate the equation throughout the previous 4 years, and he leads his investigations on creatures maintained inside a top mystery stowed away military lab available just to him and his staff. His ongoing task is switching the imperceptibility impact on his guinea pig, a female gorilla named Isabel. What the group found is that stage-moving a living organic entity into intangibility was not difficult to accomplish, yet staging them back to perceivability has demonstrated truly challenging. Working late one night on redesigning the subatomic model of the illuminated protein that will re-establish Isabel to perceivability, he tackles the issue and promptly reports his prosperity to the top individuals from his staff. Despite the fact that work on the serum involves virtually the entirety of his waking hours, Sebastian becomes fixated on his ex-doctor Linda McKay, Elizabeth Shue, who is a researcher in his group. Unbeknownst to him, she has become associated with Dr. Matt Kensington, Josh Brolin, one more individual from their examination bunch. Sebastian and his associates, who additionally incorporate veterinarians Sarah Kennedy, Kim Dickens, and Carter Abbey, Greg Grunberg, and specialists Frank Chase, Joey Slotnick, and Janice Walton, Mary Randall, at last empower the serum to deal with the gorilla. In Festival, the group goes out for an extravagant supper, where Sebastian gives an impromptu speech to the best examination bunch on the planet. To Sebastian, nonetheless, it seems like the end as inversion was the last huge forward leap. Rather than announcing his prosperity to the military, Sebastian mysteriously misleads the oversight panel, including his old educator Dr. Howard Kramer, William Devane, and convinces Linda and Matt to mislead the other 4 colleagues, saying that Kramer and the board have given them the approval for human testing. The subject, Sebastian, himself. In spite of an agonizing movement to straightforwardness, the methodology is effective. Subsequent to being oblivious for around 17 hours because of shock, Sebastian awakens in torment, and drawing back from the surrounding light, understanding that he can see through his eyelids. He then, at that point, leads a few clinical tests on himself. In any case, when it comes time to get back to perceivability following 3 days, the inversion falls flat and nearly kills him. The specialists build a plastic cover for the Sebastian to wear around the lab, roughly approximating a human appearance. During this time, Matt finds a promising method for making Sebastian noticeable once more. A programmatic experience, nonetheless, comes up short. Over the course of the following a few days, detachment and virtual detainment in the lab start to wear on Sebastian's understanding. Ignoring Carter and his own principles, he escapes and goes to his condo to snatch a few books, CDs and Twinkies to return to the lab. There, enticement outwits him, and he first covert operatives on his neighbor, Rona Mitra, and afterward assaults her, while completely imperceptible. Linda appears at the loft and tracks down the veil and garments, however no Sebastian. Sebastian gets back to the lab similarly as the others were wanting to pursue him. Linda cautions him that assuming he leaves once more, she and Matt will tell Dr. Kramer what they did. Disregarding their danger, he collects a gadget that runs a video circle of his intensity signature in his quarters. The rehashing picture fools Frank into accepting that Sebastian is still in the lab, when, truth be told, he is out keeping an eye on Linda and Matt. At Linda's place, Sebastian sees Matt and together going to have intercourse and crushes their window. The two call Frank, who lets them know that Sebastian is still in bed. In the interim, an infuriated Sebastian gets back to the lab, baffled and irritated at the prospect of Linda and Matt together. Unfit to stand the irritating woofing of an undetectable canine, Sebastian approaches the canine, consoling it that he has nothing but good intentions, then, at that point, kills it with his uncovered hands by mercilessly crushing it against the enclosure divider. The group before long find that they have been watching a recording and that Sebastian has been leaving without their insight. Linda and Matt go to Dr. Kramer's home and enlighten them concerning the trial on Sebastian. Dr. Kramer is disheartened, and lets them know that they are terminated from the venture. Dr. Kramer then endeavors to call the military and illuminate them about Sebastian, however Sebastian has really followed Linda and Matt to the house. Sebastian fools Kramer into going out and afterwards suffocates him in his own pool. The following day, Sebastian holds on until all of the group is in the lab and afterward debilitates the telephones and all of the lift codes aside from his own. He takes off his attire and plastic cover and starts to chase them generally down. Janice falls behind while the group looks for Sebastian and he chokes her with an foreline and stuffs her body in a storage. After they track down Janet's body, Linda, Sarah, and Frank stow away in the lab while Matt and Carter take sedative firearms to go chasing after Sebastian in the unfilled foyers utilizing thermographic imaging goggles. Matt takes shots at an intensity signature from a steam vent. At the point when Matt pivots, Carter has been yanked high up by Sebastian, who is on top of the line. Matt attempts to shoot him, yet Sebastian tosses Carter down toward a steel bar, what cuts his carotid conduit, causing huge blood misfortune. Sarah and Frank track down the scarcely cognizant and seriously harmed Carter. Sarah runs off alone to get blood for a bonding, in spite of Frank's desires. Detecting Sebastian close by, she sprinkles the blood all around the room, hanging tight for him to stroll on it and uncover his area. In any case, Sebastian handles her and shoots her with her sedative dart, then breaks her neck. Linda and Matt track down Frank, keeping an eye on a withering Carter. Carter drains ridiculously and the three go to track down Sarah. They track down her dead in the stroll and cooler. Candid showers a fire dowser to uncover Sebastian, however Sebastian fights against imminent loss and skewers Frank with a crowbar. He then, at that point, cuts Matt with a snare and in his lower chest. Sebastian secures Linda and Matt in the cooler, turns the temperature control right down and passes on them to stick to no end. Sebastian puts on his plastic cover and attire, investing a lot of energy to guarantee he looks close human. In the meantime, Linda dresses Matt's injury with conduit tape and afterward works out a method for getting away from the cooler. Linda builds an electromagnet utilizing a defibrillator and other lab hardware, and utilizations it to open the entryway. She gets a fire going to warm Matt and assembles the parts required for a flamethrower. In the lab, Sebastian has been making dynamite to annihilate the spot and conceal the killings of the group. He puts the nitro in an axis, begins a clock and annihilates the console, so it can't be halted. Similarly, as he is entering the lift to leave, Linda shows up and fires her rough blowtorch at him, his plastic veil and garments consuming with extreme heat. Sebastian scarcely figures out how to get away from the blazes. Linda utilizes the flamethrower to begin the roof sprinklers, to some extent uncovering him. The two battle, similarly as she is going to lose. Matt shows up and hits Sebastian with the crowbar. Sebastian recuperates and holds onto the crowbar, yet while wet, he swings the crowbar and interfaces with a breaker box, shocking himself. As the power flows through his body, Sebastian is delivered somewhat noticeable. His muscles, bones, and organs should be visible, yet his skin and what's left of his hair stay undetectable. Linda and Matt find the nitro going to detonate, and choose to leave the lab, scaling the deep opening. The lab detonates, filling the shaft with fire. The two are practically out when Sebastian shows up. He battles with Linda, and kisses her one final time just because before she at last kills him by getting the lift link and thumping the vehicle free, sending Sebastian diving into the fiery blaze beneath. He battles with Linda, and kisses her one final time just because before she at last kills him by getting the lift link and thumping the vehicle free, sending Sebastian diving into the fiery blaze beneath. In the long run, both Linda and Matt rise up out of the consuming lab, and doctors whisk them away in a rescue vehicle.